Obviously, our speaker's taller than I am. So everyone, I'd like to have the association welcome David Ezrati. He's our speaker this evening, former Army paratrooper, and what's that?
Airborne.
Airborne, all the way. But he went settled in Dayton. You were from Dayton before. So after service, he came to Dayton, Ohio. I think Cleveland, Cleveland area, and he really has become a champion for his neighborhood of South Park. It's a historic district in town. He's a champion for the city of Dayton, which he's run for office a few times, been very involved in the city government. And the one thread that has continued ever since his service is that he's been a champion for veterans. And that's taken a couple different forms. He founded an organization called VOB 108, which became VOB Ohio, which championed small businesses run by veterans. And then he's also been involved in helping veterans, not only in groups, but also individually. I know that he has specifically taken direct care of a veteran that he's currently helping and has off and on help that you'd be really surprised and you'd be really proud of David for what he's done, because I tell you what, the way he finds time to go to the hospital, to go take and find housing, to go for a vet that has help or needs help and kind of loses control and tears up the housing, goes and fixes the housing. I mean, that's the extent that David goes to when it comes to helping out a fellow veteran. So what he's here tonight to do is to help each of us look at some different ways that we can do a better job of outreach and reaching out to folks in our communities so they know about our services and can come let our Veteran Service Commissions help them out. David Ezrati.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you. We're going to get right into this. So I had this marketing fire for effect, understanding how to reach veterans in need of assistance using marketing. I'm going to take this out. It's going to drive me crazy. So you already know what you're ready for here. How many paratroopers do we have in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This could be interactive, but I'm just warning the rest of you. Since I used to jump on airplanes for a living, you take all of this any way you want, because there's a saying that there are only 2 things that fall out of the sky. One is bird poop. So, in my business, there are a lot of people who pretend to be gurus and have a crystal ball and can tell you all kinds of things on how you can reach out and do this or do that and get a response. Hate to tell you, crystal ball broke a long time ago when we went from 3 TV channels that you could turn to 500, 600, 700, 900. As you know, it's changed a lot. And the thing that you are charged with doing is reaching out to veterans. Now, this is really easy to spot these guys, right? Because they're all wearing uniforms. And you can also see that they're pretty diverse. Okay, we've got old, we've got young, we've got men, we've got women. Pretty much, veterans are a diverse group. They're not easy to spot. And they're not easy to break down and instantly target just veterans. And that's part of what my industry has gotten to. We start to believe that we can do everything with a click of a mouse. Everything can be solved by a website, a video, an ad on targeted media. And I hate to tell you, all this technology, it's not the same as actually reaching out and touching people, talking to them, and making those connections. And this is what good marketing does best, is it makes a connection that's not just sending a message, but creating an emotional response. And we're going to talk about that. Because without that emotional response, without some sort of wow factor, when you reach out and communicate to people, they're not going to remember it. And what you need them to do is remember it, not just like the next day, but it might be 6 months from today when they run into a homeless veteran and they need to know, hey, where do I turn to? Who do I call? Where's my first step? And no amount of technology is going to do that. Because if you do a Google search and say, I got a homeless vet, he's on drugs, he's been in jail, what do I do? You think Google's going to have that answer? They're going to say, go to your local veteran service office and start right there? Ain't going to happen. So, media, there's no one size fits all. We're going to do a little exercise here. It's going to be interactive, so I want everybody to stand up, please. If you can. If you can't, raise your arm. All right, I'm going to start putting up some media things here, and if you've used this I'm going to make it easy. In the last month, you can stay standing up. How many of you used Google in the last month? Everybody, right? Nobody's, if you haven't, sit down. We got one guy who doesn't use Google. 2. All right. Facebook. I know a few of you are going to sit down. You're just not going to, you don't do that, right? All right, LinkedIn. How many of you have used LinkedIn in the last? We're thinning out. Thinning out. How about YouTube? How many of you got the? If you're sitting down already, can't get back up. So we got this many that have used YouTube. How many of you have used Instagram in the last month? No, a bunch more sat down. All right. How about Reddit? Have you used Reddit? Sit down. Oh, we got a few techno guys here left. This one's bound to, this will sit the rest of them down. Pinterest. How many have been on Pinterest in the last month? Oh, we've still got a few standing. All right, how about Twitter? Twitter, still standing? We got some Twitter users? All right, Snapchat. Have you used Snapchat? Okay, sit down, Ashley. You have? Okay. We got 4 left. 5. And I know this will, TikTok. How many of you use TikTok? There we go. We got it. Wait a second. These 2 are still standing. Don't even know where it's you sit down to. Use TikTok? Oh my! Here's your social media goddess right there. Talk to her about everything. All right. You're being nominated as new chairman of the IT committee. Thank you. All right, now, we can go back to the old school, and I'm sure we can put TV up, and all of you looked at TV, and most of you have listened to a radio. And newspaper, we might have done the same thing, and there'd be a bunch of people sitting down, and then there's billboards. You've all seen billboards. But you see there's a difference between these things up on top and these things on the bottom. And this is what we used to do. And we had a limited number of opportunities to reach out. Once you get into these, it's a ton of different options. It's like the 700 channels of cable. And you are not going to be able to do all of them well. You can't afford to pay for the bottom ones. So the difference is, the bottom ones, those are broadcasting for the most part. Those reach large audiences. The top ones, every one of those, is a one-to-one relationship. One-to-one. And this is where the Europeans and the Americans are a little different. The Europeans are saying, we don't want you to give that data out easily and be able to, for somebody like me to say, I want to reach all the veterans. In Europe, that's not happening. Here, they want to sell it to you and say, we can do it, but there's almost no way of verifying it. There is very few ways of checking that they're actually delivering what they're selling you, if they don't have to take a direct action, if they're not going to go out and actually purchase something, it's very hard to track the cycle from buy a message and send it out on one of those channels and get a result back and test it. And you guys aren't in the business of selling anything. So all these people want these answers and they think, oh, we'll just do a Facebook campaign. Well, there's a lot of people that aren't on Facebook. Or they say, we'll do Google ads, we'll do DoubleClick, or we'll do YouTube and we'll do pre-roll. But by the time you spend the kind of money you need to spend to reach the people you need to reach, you'd be doing better just giving away money to people on the corner and hoping they go out and tell 10 people. Honestly. Because those companies are getting very rich by telling people they can do something that they could if they really wanted to, but there's no money in that. There's more money in charging you and keep charging you, and it's all a system to get this going. But getting back to my business, which is advertising, typically advertising is only one thing, an interruption. How many of you guys look forward to seeing the ads other than the Super Bowl? You don't turn on the TV and see, oh, what's the latest ad on TV tonight, right? You only wait for the Super Bowl, that's about it. Okay? You don't even watch the Super Bowl, okay. Are you an American? So, what I want to talk to you more about is what I call marketing and public relations, which is typically, instead of interruption, it's information. It's making sure the information gets out to the right people and connects with people, and that they know how to reach you, and they can find you, and they can tell the story. Doesn't matter if it's advertising or marketing and PR. Doesn't matter what system or network you use. Most of it is pretty expensive. It's going to cost you some money. And the second part of it is this. It's ignored. We get barraged with so many messages. We see so many things. We are so many people fighting for our attention that you have to really think about what your message is and how to get it out over and over and over to the people that you need to get it out to. So, a couple tips. And I'm trying to keep this really simple and easy because I'm a paratrooper first, and second, because this doesn't have to be that difficult. So the first tip is whatever you're doing, you want to make it entertaining, you want to make it useful, you want to make it shareable, you want to make it simple, and you want to keep it pretty short. People's attention spans are really short these days. If it doesn't grab them in about the first 3 seconds, they're on to the next thing. You're one click away, or one click of the remote, or one swipe of a mouse, or finger on the screen, from actually getting their attention and having them follow through. So my rule is, if they don't want to steal it, watch it, share it, keep it, it's not worth doing. How many of you, I look around this room, I think a few of you are at least my age. How many of you remember a poster with a guy sitting in a chair with a speaker in front of him? He had his sunglasses on, his tie's blowing in the back. And how many of you remember that? A lot of you. Do you remember what it was for? No. What? Tape. What did they say tape? Maxell tape. That image, that poster, that ad, people hung it in their homes. They framed it. It was a piece of advertising. When you do that, when you create something that somebody wants to hang on their wall and to steal your poster, then you've done something. So, we're going to look here at for a little example here. When I was running VOB 108, we had a Vetrepreneur Academy where we were taking vets and trying to teach them how to be entrepreneurs. Somebody thought they could do this themselves. That was the poster, 11 by 17. You probably can't even read it from here. I can't even read it. It starts out with Venturepreneur Academy 2012 course offerings designed for veteran entrepreneurs. It's down here, it says real big, a $500 value. Okay. I said, we can't put this out. Nobody's going to sit there and read all that and figure all that out unless you lead them through it. Because it's also the course guide. It's a poster plus a course guide. So, are you a veteran and want to learn how to succeed in business? Civilian skills for past and present military members, free consulting. Yes?
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Tuscaloosa County, where you at? Tuscaloosa. Starts with T.
Tuscarawas County.
Tuscarawas County, you're double parked.
Anyone in here from there?
Your lights are on?
No one?
No one? Okay. So this was my version, same exact information. Which one are you more likely to pay attention to? Neither of them. Hopefully the one on the right. It takes a little bit of skill to make something as boring as a course schedule look like something you want to look at, read, jump into. There's something there for me. And it's pretty big right there. Free consulting, how to succeed in business. You pretty much get that it's military. Boom. All right, now this next one I might get in trouble for. Is there a way to turn the lights off? Because this is a video. Can somebody kill lights? We're clicking away.
Right behind it.
Right behind me? Ah. No! 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 All right, well, we're a little dimmer. Here we go.
This is a story about Coleman Sweeney. Coleman, in short, was an asshole. Everyone in his small town knew it. It wasn't that he tried particularly hard to be unpleasant. It just seemed to come naturally to him. Coleman felt like the whole world owed him something, which caused him to regularly ignore the rules of a decent, acceptable society. And he hated anything that got in his way.
Go, you got it. You got it, go. Go, go, you can do it.
And small animals. Even to children, he was an asshole. He was, as they say, born to it. But then, the strangest thing happened.
$3.
Something entirely unexpected. Coleman Sweeney died. A brain aneurysm. Well, subarachnoid hemorrhage to be more specific. And it came as he argued over whether extra fries should be included in a $1.99 early bird breakfast, which was a typical Coleman Sweeney play. It was then that Sarah found something completely unexpected. Coleman Sweeney had registered to be an organ donor. Nobody knew what caused Coleman to do it, but there it was, generous and majestic. And that was the day that Coleman went from asshole to hero. You see, his liver went to Stan, a father of two. His heart went to Miranda Morgan,
Here has been to
who went on to teach for 25 more years. And his tendons went to Staff Sergeant Donahue, who was able to walk again and would never need to be pushed across the street by his physical therapist. And in a moment of small world irony, his corneas went to his 82-year-old next-door neighbor so that she could finally see the crap that her dog made in the side yard and pick it up. Yes, in life, Coleman was a bona fide asshole. 365 days a year, 24/7.
Hey, baby!
But in death, Well, let's just raise our middle fingers and shout, "Up yours, Coleman Sweeney. You're not an asshole anymore."
So, that asshole to this asshole. And trust me, I've been called an asshole. Somebody had to argue really hard with somebody to allow them to make that ad. But I guarantee you that that ad got watched by more people and changed more opinions about organ donation than any ad saying, "Hey, you should be an organ donor. It's the right thing to do." Now it's a lot better, don't be an asshole, right? So, it's great when you can show other people's work that's, really great. Right after some of your work that was, pretty boring, it makes you look better. So, rule of public speaking, always steal better people's quotes, get better examples. But your job, what we've got to talk about is how to reach a veteran. Now, some veterans, like the ones in this room, are pretty easy to spot, right? Because we all wear hats that say paratrooper, Army, Vietnam veteran, Korea veteran. You know that. We wear them all the time. And, that's pretty obvious, but that's not the people that we necessarily need to reach out to. So, the veteran that I work with didn't think he was a veteran. Believe it or not, that's your first problem. Now, some of you know that you have to go through some sort of, checking up on things and making sure they served X number of days and all that. But this guy, for 20 years, had bounced around between jails, ERs, mental health institutions, and nobody bothered to find out. Even if they did find out he was a veteran, he'd say, "Oh, no, that was in the past, and I really didn't do anything, and I didn't go to war, I didn't go over, all the standard things." So he didn't get the services he needed, he didn't get the help he needed, he just bounced around. As of 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago, he got a 70% rating with the VA. That changed his life. And that's what all of you are capable of doing. You're capable of going out and finding guys that don't look like this, that are bouncing around, and help them navigate the system that you know is really, really, really difficult. So, this guy, he could be a veteran, right? That guy, he could be a veteran. And these two nurses, the first one's a police officer, obviously, the second one's a firefighter. These nurses, they could be veterans, but I have no way of knowing. But I do know that these three people are probably the people that might be easiest for you to reach. I call them referrers. They might be the easiest people for you to target, to find, because they are going to run into the veteran at their worst times, when they're sick, when they're getting in trouble with the law, when they're having medical issues, and they're the ones that need to be asking the question, did you serve? Are you in the system? Is somebody helping you? Are you eligible for SSVF? So it might be easiest to spend, instead of trying to reach veterans and trying to reach people through VFW and the DAV, it might be easier reaching out to the people who are the first responders, the people who are having contact first with people at the worst times and finding out what you can do. The courts, same thing. We have a veterans court in Montgomery County. It has been very successful at helping people avoid ending up the way my friend John ended up. But we're going to move from here to the magic that everybody hopes will help, and that's online. What are the secrets to at least getting the part right where they can find you and share something with somebody pretty quick, so that when they run into that person, they can find information, tell them where to come, where to get started. You are the first line of offense in this. So, first thing you always have to check is that, does your site work mobile? This is no longer optional. In fact, in 2014, Google said, if your site isn't mobile friendly, we're going to drop it down in the rankings. So how do you know if a site is mobile friendly? Well, if you call it up on your phone and you can read it and you can navigate it, then it's mobile friendly. But if you gotta sit there and try to, zoom in or mouse around, then it is not mobile friendly. So that's the first thing. Second thing, see that little HTTPS with the little green lock? Your site needs to have that at the beginning up in the URL bar. If it does not have that, Google's going to ding you, and it becomes really easy for people to put up fake sites, to spoof you, and to cause all kinds of other problems. So you want to have a secure website. And the third thing is the information you are sharing and the information you are collecting should belong to you. It shouldn't belong to a third party. So for all the people who think, oh yeah, we got a Facebook page. No, Facebook owns a Facebook page. You're just making them money. You cannot trust other companies to provide you with a website. How many of you know what open source software is? Please raise your hand. Open source software? Not a whole lot of you, okay? Open source software is the opposite of, say, Microsoft Word. Where Microsoft owns the software, wrote the software, all the code is only available to them. Whereas if you go, or Microsoft Windows, or if you go to Linux, that's owned by the community. It's open source. Somebody can't all of a sudden one day say, this doesn't work anymore. After we told you to use ActiveX for years and years and said this is the future of web technology, and then Microsoft said, oh no, we're not going to do ActiveX anymore. You might have spent $1 million building your website using ActiveX, and then one day they said, no more ActiveX. How many of you know what Adobe Flash is? You've heard of that? You don't want to use Flash anymore. Even Adobe doesn't want you to use Flash anymore because it doesn't work on mobile. It doesn't work with ADA requirements. ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And the really cool thing to remember is Google, the search engine, is just like a blind person. So if you make your site ADA compliant, Google will like you because Google's looking at it about the same way as a blind person. How many of you have seen a blind person use a web with a screen reader? How many of you have watched somebody with a screen reader? It is insane. They've got this little dial, they turn the speed up of how they're reading till it sounds like chipmunks, and they get it, and they just click as they hear each title go down. And if your site is navigable by a blind person, you've done yourself favors in more ways than one. So the third part is open source software. And I've been pushing WordPress as a content management system, a way to build your website, since 2005. I've been teaching classes on it. I've been telling people this is the future. It now runs somewhere about 33% of the most popular sites on the web worldwide. It is that pervasive. And the reason is it's easy to use, and you own your content if you host it on your own server, or host it on a server you own. This is not using somebody else's proprietary website. This isn't paying somebody like Wix or Weebly or Squarespace or any of these other companies that say, oh, we make it easy so we can own your data. And trust me, every time somebody visits your website, there's data coming in. Every page you put up, every word that's searched, that is data. And it's valuable to somebody, but most importantly, it's valuable to you. And if you're collecting information from people in any way, you want that information to be safeguarded by you, not by Microsoft, Google, Adobe, anybody else, Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, you name it. So WordPress is free software, and it will make your life easier, guaranteed. Now, there are other open source content management systems. You might have heard of Joomla or Drupal, and they're just going to be more expensive to manage and maintain. So that's my little first part of the web. The second part is, unfortunately, there are the big companies, a couple companies you have to use. The first one being YouTube. It's owned by Google, which is owned by, the company's now called Alphabet. But the reason you have to use YouTube is because they have figured out a way to deliver a whole lot of data fast and efficiently at any screen size over almost any connection. They're really smart. They're good about it. You cannot host your own video. Those files are huge. They will slow your server down. They can't be distributed. And believe it or not, the number 2 search engine after Google is YouTube. Half the people read and half the people watch television. So if you want to reach everybody, you can have a website, but you better have some video. And so YouTube is critical to that. The second part is, and this is unfortunate, you have to be able to maintain something on Facebook. The reason being is there are people who think Facebook is the internet. They don't ever leave it. They live within that ecosystem. It's what we call a walled garden. You have to be a member to get in. And once you're in there, they don't want to let you out. They want to keep you there. In fact, they've got an algorithm that's calculating ways to keep you scrolling and keep you looking. And they're just working every bit to try to get you to spend more time there. So the reason you need to be on Facebook is because, remember what I was telling you about the police officers and the firefighters and the nurses? Well, other people might not see a veteran struggling or know somebody who's complaining about their son. They might make that connection. And they might live on Facebook, and they might need to be able to share a resource there. So you need to have information on Facebook on how to get a hold of your Veteran Service Office that's up to date, that has the information they need, and that they can be shared. Because unfortunately, it's 1.5 billion people worldwide and growing, and it's not going to go away. It's like the 800-pound gorilla on steroids. So you have to have those two. The other part, and this is a little more esoteric, is there's a program called Civi CRM. It's an open source piece of software that was developed for running political campaigns, but also works for data gathering, case management, and everything else. CRM stands for Constituent or Customer Relationship Manager. Civi is also an open source program, and it works in the back end of WordPress. And so if you want to have case management where you can have all your employees get access to keep notes collectively, to be able to send out emails to your group of influencers or your veterans that might be eligible for a certain program based on something. Civi is complicated, but it is an incredibly valuable tool. It will do, or can do, what you need to do to manage your data and keep connections with the people you need to connect with. So, we're wrapping up here. Public relations. In my business now, there's some people say, everything you do is PR. You gotta be on it all the time. Every veteran you help, you need to tell that story out to the public. Every program you have, every resource you have. You gotta talk about it nonstop. That might mean posting on your website, but it might be sending articles to the newspaper, it might be calling the TV news and telling them you're having an event. It might be going out to a DAV meeting and telling them what you've been doing. It might be going to the county fair and having a booth out there and touching hands and talking to people and shoving things in their hand. It is not optional. So, believe it or not, the most powerful thing in PR is a business card. And by the way, that little logo there that you've seen all over the place here, I did that. I'm really proud of it. I still like it. And it looks really good out there on the banners. But all of you should have a bunch of little plastic cards. Why do I say plastic? Because they need to be durable, they need to be weatherproof, they need to stand up in wallets for a long time. And on that card, it should say, your county's Veteran Service Office is the first place for veterans to get assistance. Because that's the only message you need to get to somebody every time you meet somebody. You got to say, you got a veteran that's got a problem, you want to reach out to me. And you got to have these cards, and you got to put them everywhere, every bulletin board, everywhere you go. And they're cheap. Literally. I don't know what the price of the plastic cards is right now, but like I do 1,000 business cards for $25 to print 4-color both sides, 16 point. It's pretty amazing. The plastic ones, if we got them for everybody here, 1,000 each, and you started handing these things out everywhere you went, and people stuck them in their wallet and said, this is like the get out of jail free card for veterans, you're going to get more phone calls. You're going to get more people knowing where to turn to, because honestly, the Veteran Service Offices are probably the best kept secret in the state of Ohio, and it's your job to go out and change that. And with that, if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them. If you don't have any questions, you guys get to go drink, so I don't imagine very many questions, and I appreciate it. My business is called The Next Wave. It's in Dayton, Ohio, and we talk about creating lust and evoking trust, because that's all we have to do to get people to remember us and think about things. And you can visit us online. You should have a handout. I've got some business cards here. And our other mantra is advertising only costs when it doesn't work, so don't do stuff that doesn't work. Thank you.
All right, well, so for David, we have an association pin, of which he has like 50 because he grabbed a couple, he ordered some extra ones when he got these for us, so.
I don't need one.
Okay, so maybe we'll come up with something better later. We just have a couple things to do real quick. First of all, a lot of people ask about lunch tomorrow. I know there was an issue last time. What the hotel is doing for us is they're going to do a lunch pack. And so what that is for $6, a sandwich,